So one of the writers I look at, her name is Ніна Бічуя. She's from Lviv. She lives in Lviv to this day. I look at her as a precursor to contemporary Ukrainian women prose writers. And I look at her literary career during the Soviet times and try to understand why she never gained greater popularity. And she has a very interesting story because she was one of the very few prose writers, Ukrainian prose writers, women prose writers of the Soviet era. She wrote brilliant works, at least in my estimation and the estimation of some of her Ukrainian critics, but she never gained greater popularity in Ukraine or in Russia or in all of the Soviet Union. She was translated into Russian. Some of her short stories were published in Moscow. At the same time, they were forbidden from being published in Kyiv, in Ukrainian, for example. So I analyze this context for literary production in the Soviet Union and the different treatment that Russian writers received as compared to Ukrainian writers. And then in the Ukrainian context, I look at male writers versus female writers and the various dynamics of censorship and self-censorship even, because Bichuya eventually decided not to publish any more stories, and her last story is actually from 1990. It's called The Stone Master, and I analyze it in detail. So in order to investigate that story, the Soviet context, I went to Lviv, I interviewed Ніна Бічуя, I looked at a lot of periodicals from the era, journal articles, literary newspaper articles, both those published in Moscow, the metropole, as well as those published in Lviv and Kyiv and other places in Ukraine, to really get a feel for the environment and the context, the historical, the social, and political context in Ukraine at the time.